Blackhead prevention works best when it is gentle, consistent, and realistic, because blackheads usually do not appear all at once but tend to form gradually as excess oil, dead skin cells, sunscreen residue, makeup, sweat, and ordinary daily debris collect inside the opening of the pore and slowly create a compact plug that darkens after exposure to air. So, the smartest long-term approach is not to attack the skin with force, but to keep it calm, clean, balanced, and less congested over time. A simple routine is usually more effective than an aggressive one. Cleanse the face in the morning and again at night with a mild cleanser and lukewarm water, because very hot water can strip the skin, leave it feeling tight and reactive, and create that frustrating cycle in which the face feels both oily and uncomfortable at the same time. Use clean fingertips rather than rough washcloths, harsh scrubs, gritty exfoliants, stiff cleansing brushes, or repeated friction, especially around the nose, chin, and forehead, where blackheads often gather most easily. If sunscreen, makeup, or heavier skincare products have been worn during the day, remove them thoroughly but gently in the evening so residue does not remain on the skin overnight. Choose non-comedogenic products when possible, and be cautious with very heavy oils, greasy balms, thick styling creams, or pomades that can migrate from the hairline onto the forehead and temples. Moisturizer still matters even if the skin feels oily, because over-cleansed or dehydrated skin can become irritated and unbalanced, and a light moisturizer often helps the skin feel calmer and more comfortable over time. Daily sunscreen is also important because protecting the skin from too much sun supports overall skin health and reduces the temptation to overuse strong products out of frustration. Small hygiene habits matter too. Change pillowcases regularly, use clean face towels, wipe down eyeglasses and phone screens, and try not to rest the face and the hands for long stretches. If you sweat after exercise, yard work, commuting, warm weather, or a long day outdoors, rinse or cleanse the skin as soon as practical, so oil and residue do not sit on the surface longer than necessary. If scalp oil tends to move onto the forehead, wash the hair regularly and keep heavier hair products away from facial skin whenever possible. Some people benefit from gentle leave-on ingredients such as salicylic acid to help keep pores clearer over time, and some do well with a retinoid if their skin tolerates it. But stronger is not always better, and steady use is usually more helpful than jumping from one harsh trend to another every few days. Pore strips may remove some surface debris temporarily, but they do not stop future blackheads from forming by themselves, and repeated harsh use can irritate sensitive skin, so it is usually wiser to focus on steady daily habits instead of chasing quick fixes. Avoid squeezing, scraping, pinching, or picking at blackheads, because that can cause redness, swelling, irritation, broken skin, and lingering marks while doing little to prevent the next clogged pore from forming. It also helps not to examine the face too aggressively in magnifying mirrors, because normal skin texture can start to feel like a crisis when it is really just part of being human. Wash hats, pillowcases, and anything that rests against the forehead regularly. Keep makeup brushes and sponges cleaner than many people remember to do. Be thoughtful with thick or greasy products that stay on the face for many hours, especially in warm weather. Try not to switch products constantly out of frustration, because skin often responds better to calm consistency than to panic. If a new product burns, stings strongly, or makes the skin much redder, drier, or more uncomfortable, reduce, use, or stop it, and return to a simpler routine. Regular sleep, a balanced routine, lower stress where possible, enough water, and patient habits support general well-being and may also help the complexion look steadier. If clogged pores become painful, inflamed, widespread, or resistant to gentle home care, guidance from a licensed dermatologist is much wiser than escalating with rough self-treatment. In the long run, blackhead prevention usually comes from mild cleansing, thoughtful product choices, less friction, cleaner habits, and enough patience to let the routine work quietly. And maybe that is one reason older people often appreciate advice like this, because after enough years, most people learn that very few things improve because someone attacks them dramatically, while a surprising number improve because someone calm notices what matters, keeps the routine simple, and refuses to let a small confusion grow into a public headache, which is exactly what happened in the small Tennessee town of Cedar Creek on the bright first Saturday of November, when 78-year-old Martha Lou Bennett expected nothing more exciting than a church ladies' recipe swap and vendor brunch at the County Civic Hall, and instead found herself, by 1:30 in the afternoon, directing a room full of seniors, school volunteers, local politicians, line dancers, pie bakers, and one deeply offended inflatable turkey through the funniest scheduling disaster the town had seen since the Christmas tree lighting ceremony of 2019, when the donkey refused to walk and the mayor's scarf caught in the microphone stand. Martha Lou had spent 35 years as the front office secretary at Cedar Creek High School, which meant she trusted paper calendars, sharpened pencils, practical shoes, and women who carried mints more than she trusted enthusiasm, committee slogans, or men who said, "We'll figure it out," while holding extension cords. She lived in a neat white house with green shutters, a porch swing, 2 mums by the steps, and a freezer that always held 1 emergency meatloaf, 1 emergency pound cake, and 2 soups with labels written in strong black marker, because supper should never require detective work. She was widowed now, but not lonely in any tragic sense. She had 2 grown daughters, 4 grandchildren who still called to ask whether chicken was done by look or by time, a church with a fierce casserole culture, and 3 close friends who met her every Saturday morning at Dottie's Diner for breakfast, coffee, and the serious evaluation of local nonsense before it got momentum. Those friends were Loretta Faye McCall, age 74, retired beauty shop owner, believer in lipstick, scarves, and the moral necessity of showing up to public life looking like one meant it. Harold Gene Tucker, age 81, retired hardware store manager, suspicious of flimsy furniture, decorative ladders, and any sign with curly writing, and Opal Ruth Gentry, age 76, widowed, former church pianist, soft-spoken and dryly funny, the kind of woman who could say one sentence so mildly that the entire room had to think for 3 seconds and then laugh hard enough to need a napkin. The event on the calendar that morning was called the Autumn Comfort Exchange, which sounded harmless and useful. Church ladies would bring recipes, homemade breads, jams, pies, and practical household things. A few local vendors would sell candles and dish towels. There would be a light brunch, a raffle table, and what the flyer called neighborly fellowship, which older adults understand to mean folding chairs, paper plates, and at least one woman carrying deviled eggs as if transporting state secrets. But what nobody at breakfast knew was that the Civic Hall had also, through a miracle of poor communication, been booked that same day for the County Line Dance Club's rehearsal showcase and a Meet the Candidates coffee hour for the upcoming town council election. 3 events, Harold said over bacon and eggs, peering at the little flyer Martha Lou had folded in her purse, means 3 chances for bad signs and 6 chances for chairs in the wrong place. Loretta applied lipstick using the reflection in her spoon. As long as the coffee is strong and nobody asks me to line dance before noon, I can survive almost anything. Opal Ruth, who had read the bottom line more carefully than anyone else, said, "This says light refreshments in Hall A, dancing in Hall B, and candidate greetings in the foyer. The foyer in that building is the size of a sigh. That can't be right." Martha Lou folded the flyer back into her purse and said, "Then somebody is about to learn. They arrived just after 10:30, and the parking lot already looked like a warning. Pickup trucks, church sedans, a local bakery van, 2 SUVs covered in line dancing decals, a folding sign that said, 'Kofi this way,' with an arrow so vague it might as well have been philosophical. Through the glass doors they could see balloons, tablecloths, pie boxes, and at least one man in a blazer carrying a tray of muffins like he was trying to be seen by voters. "Well," said Harold, stepping out of the car, "there's your first mistake. Muffins and politics should never meet unsupervised." Inside, the foyer had indeed become a bottleneck of public intention. Candidate volunteers stood near a welcome table handing out stickers. The Line Dance Club, all in coordinated denim and sparkly belts, occupied one wall with tote bags, hats, and thermoses. Church ladies moved pie tins and slow cookers past the registration desk. The coffee station sat directly beside the candidate stickers, which meant half the people looking for cream were accidentally wearing "Vote Hank Pritchard" on their cardigans. The room smelled like cinnamon, hairspray, paper cups, and civic overconfidence. A young woman in a headset with a clipboard and the expression of someone one dropped spatula away from collapse spotted Martha Lou and made straight for her. "Oh, thank heavens," she said. "You're here." Martha Lou blinked. "For what?" "The senior hospitality reviewers," the woman said, already grabbing lanyards off the table, as though truth would only slow her down. "I'm Sydney. The county outreach office said they were sending a seasoned, older volunteer panel to help us evaluate comfort and access. And if that's you, I could honestly kiss your shoes." Loretta turned her head slightly to hide the smile that leapt onto her face. Opal Ruth looked at the ceiling as if asking heaven whether this counted as an assignment. Harold muttered, "We do have seasoned faces, I'll grant her that." Martha Lou tried once, properly, to correct the misunderstanding. "I think you may have the wrong—" Sydney nodded with the raw intensity of a woman whose hope had gone past listening. "Yes, the day is absolutely wrong. That's why I need you. Hall A has the food, Hall B has the dancers, the foyer has the candidates, and everyone is using the same restrooms and coffee. Please just tell me what to move before somebody cries into a cobbler. There are moments in life when declining is technically possible but spiritually inefficient." Martha Lou looked around. The coffee table was too close to the entrance. The registration desk blocked the turn toward the food hall. The pie drop-off table had been placed in a draft. One row of chairs was directly under the vent. The line dancing group's rolling coolers sat in front of the only bench. The candidate table had somehow claimed the best lighting and the narrowest corner. "All right," she said. "We are not who you think we are, but we are here, and your room is begging for adults." Sydney nearly folded with gratitude. "Good enough," she said. "That is exactly who I need." That was how Martha Lou Bennett and the Dottie's Diner breakfast table became the accidental command unit of the Cedar Creek Civic Hall. Martha Lou sent Harold to inspect chairs and buffet tables, because no one alive could read structural shame faster than a retired hardware man. She sent Loretta to the coffee station and front desk, because women with beauty shop histories know how to manage lines, faces, and irritation all at once. She sent Opal Ruth to Hall A, where the recipes, pies, casseroles, and brunch tables were being arranged, because she had the kind of quiet voice that could calm cooks without insulting them. Then, Martha Lou herself took the clipboard from Sydney and began doing what she had done for decades, turning human drift into workable order. The first thing she changed was the entry flow. "Candidate stickers to the left wall," she told a startled volunteer in a red sweater. "Coffee to the right, registration in the middle. If someone wants both caffeine and local democracy, they can walk 6 feet for it." The second thing she changed was the pie table. "No fruit pie belongs under a draft vent in November," she said, and moved the entire display herself until 3 church ladies rushed to help. One of them, Mrs. Blevins, said, "Who is this woman?" And another replied, "I don't know, but I trust her with crust." Harold returned from Hall A, carrying one folding chair upside down by its leg, like evidence in a trial. "This one is cracked," he announced to no one in particular. "If anybody puts Aunt Geraldine in it, you'll have a second event involving ice packs." The chair disappeared at once. Loretta, meanwhile, had already improved the coffee table so dramatically that people started thanking her as though she were official staff. "Sugar with the sugar, lids with the cups, napkins where hands are, and stir sticks in something that stands up by itself," she said. "It is not a scavenger hunt, it is coffee." By 11:15, the whole building was easier to live with. The church ladies stopped colliding with line dancers. The candidate volunteers stopped handing out stickers to people asking for cream. Hall A had a workable path from buffet to seating. Hall B had room for boots and applause. The bench was restored. The labels made sense. The restrooms became findable by humans rather than instinct. Sydney followed the 4 of them around like a convert. "I had no idea so much of this was just placement," she said. "Everything is placement," Harold replied. "That and whether people have had coffee. That should have been enough to save the day." But then Hall B opened for the line dance rehearsal showcase, and 40 women in denim, rhinestones, and determined smiles started warming up to a remix of Aki Breaky Heart. At the exact moment, Hall A opened its buffet line, and the candidate in the red tie started a handshake circuit through the foyer. The sound bounced through the walls. A line of seniors carrying chicken salad plates drifted toward the music instead of the seating tables. The candidate smiled and said, "Good to see so much community spirit," while standing directly in front of the deviled eggs. One woman from the church muttered, "Move him before I get mayonnaise on democracy." Martha Lou, who had once managed report card pickup during a pep rally, did not wait. She stepped into the doorway between the halls, raised her voice just enough, and said, "If you are dancing, right side. If you are eating, left side. If you are campaigning, stop blocking the eggs." The whole foyer laughed, which was enough to change the mood from tense to manageable. The red tie candidate, to his credit, stepped aside with the expression of a man who had just realized older women remained a voting bloc he could not physically outmaneuver. Then came the first genuine disaster. In Hall A, a long table of pies and breads had been decorated with a tall arrangement of faux wheat and mini pumpkins, because somebody under 40 believed brunch required vertical drama. At the precise moment, the line dance instructor stomped out a turn combination next door. The vibration, and one badly placed elbow from a gentleman reaching too far for cornbread, combined to send the arrangement leaning. It hit the cloth. The cloth tugged the front edge of the pie table. 3 pies shifted. 1 sweet potato pie in a glass dish began inching toward the edge. "No," said 4 different women at once. Opal Ruth was closest. She caught the dish with one hand, steadied the arrangement with the other, and said, in the same tone she once used to correct altos who thought they could improvise, "This is why food does not need architecture." The room burst out laughing. The pie was saved. The faux wheat was demoted. The mini pumpkins were redistributed at lower altitude where, as Harold said, they could cause less trouble per inch. But the funniest part of the day belonged to Hall B. The line dance showcase included a guest performance by a local women's team called the Cedar Bells, who wore matching red boots and had enough synchronized confidence to power a small town. They danced beautifully for 2 songs, then took a water break near the back wall where someone had set down a giant inflatable turkey intended for the children's fall photo corner outside. It had been partly inflated, then forgotten, because in shared public buildings, forgotten decorations always wait for maximum inconvenience. One of the dancers, backing up with her hands on her hips, leaned against the inflation switch. The turkey rose suddenly, fully, magnificently, and with all the silent menace of a seasonal surprise. Its orange feet kicked outward. Its round vinyl body nudged a rolling speaker stand. The speaker stand bumped the water table. The water table shivered toward a row of audience chairs. In the front row sat 3 women from Maple Terrace Retirement Lodge, holding punch cups and discussing grandchildren with the serenity of people who had already survived harder things than an event planner. "Oh now," said Loretta, seeing it happen. She moved with astonishing speed for someone in lipstick and sensible heels, caught the water table before it tipped, and glared at the turkey as if it had embarrassed the family. Sydney came running. "What happened?" she cried. Harold pointed at the enormous bird and said, "Inflation without oversight." That became, for the rest of the day, the phrase everyone used for anything ridiculous. The inflatable turkey was unplugged and tied to a chair under supervision. The Cedar Bells regained formation. The Maple Terrace ladies asked if they could take a picture with the turkey later because it does feel famous now. By noon, the building had become less of a problem and more of a story. The church crowd loved the dancers. The dancers bought raffle tickets for the pie drawings. The candidates softened enough to stop performing optimism every second. But then the final layer of complication arrived, the raffle baskets. For reasons no one could defend after the fact, the raffle ticket stubs and baskets were being handled in 3 separate locations. Tickets were sold in the foyer. Baskets were displayed in Hall A. Prize numbers were kept on a clipboard in Hall B near the dance judges because someone needed a flat surface earlier and never recovered. This was an arrangement designed by exhaustion rather than thought, and it collapsed at 1:15 when a woman from the church asked to verify whether basket 12 was the crocheted Afghan or the slow cooker, and the volunteer behind the ticket table said, "I think the slow cooker is 17 unless the Afghan was moved," which is the kind of sentence that makes older adults sit up straighter because nonsense has finally become measurable. "No," said Martha Lou, taking the clipboard. "We are not raffling mystery." In under 10 minutes, she turned the foyer into a functioning prize station. Baskets were renumbered in order. A single master list was made in large writing. Hall B's spare card table became the raffle desk. The tickets moved there. The volunteer who had been guessing was reassigned to cookies where speculation could do less harm. The room calmed once more. That should have been the end. Instead, Dennis, the shuttle driver, arrived late, carrying 2 extra casserole carriers from the fellowship hall, and set them down beside 3 nearly identical carriers that had already been placed near the kitchen entrance. One held pimento cheese sandwiches, one held peach cobbler, one held the line dancers' lemon bars, one held the candidate campaign coffee cake. Nobody knew which was which. Normally that would have mattered only to appetite. But at precisely that moment, the Civic Hall's old side refrigerator stopped cooling, meaning anything that needed refrigeration had to be quickly sorted and moved to the church lady's emergency cooler. Sydney looked ready to dissolve. "How do we know what goes where?" she asked. "We ask the women who made them," said Martha Lou, "and if they are all named Donna, then we ask better." The carriers were lined up like suspects. Owners were called. Loretta interviewed them with the efficiency of a detective who had once run a salon during prom season, and therefore knew panic by smell. "What color was your lid tape? Did you write under the handle? Does your pimento cheese include pimientos, or just attitude? Did you bring peach cobbler in a deep pan, or the flatter one you call nicer but I do not trust?" The answers came. The carriers were identified. The cooler was loaded. The campaign coffee cake was nearly lost to Hall B but rescued by a woman who said, "I knew that dish because nobody in our church uses low-fat streusel and admits it." Again the room applauded, because people adore competence when food is involved. The actual official disaster came at 2 o'clock, during the final candidate introductions, when the Red Tie Council hopeful attempted to charm the dance crowd by stepping backward toward the little portable podium in Hall B and knocked it directly into the side of the sound mixer. The microphone squealed. The line dance music cut. The judge's table rattled. The inflatable turkey, perhaps sensing attention, tipped sideways off its chair and rolled halfway across the floor like a festive tumbleweed. One old gentleman in the front stood up too fast and nearly lost his punch. "No more surprises," Martha Lou said, and took the microphone before anybody else could use it badly. "If you are here to dance, dance. If you are here to eat, eat. If you are here to seek office, stand in one place and mean it. And if anything else inflates unexpectedly, we will send it outside." The hall roared. Even the red tie candidate laughed. Because once an older woman has told the truth, that clearly, pretending offense only makes matters worse. The final stretch of the day became joyful. The candidates stayed in their corner. The dances resumed. The pie raffle was run cleanly. The buffet was replenished in sane order. The church ladies, now fully delighted by the absurdity, began bringing little plates of leftovers over to the dancers. The dancers, in turn, started buying tickets for the church quilt basket. Someone found out that one of the Maple Terrace ladies knew the line dance instructor from 1987 church camp, and they hugged as if the event had planned the reunion instead of merely surviving around it. The building had become not one awkward triple booking, but one cheerful public tangle being managed by the sort of people who know how to make a room behave. The local radio man who had come to film the candidate greetings ended up interviewing Martha Lou instead. "What's your secret?" he asked. "No secret," she said. "Most public confusion is just bad placement, weak labeling, and too few older women allowed near the planning." That clip ran on the evening news. By 3:30, Sydney had moved from panic to worship. "Would you all," she asked carefully, "consider helping us plan next year's event calendar?" Harold answered before anyone else. "Only if we get veto power over script fonts. And over inflatable poultry," said Loretta. "And over any phrase containing curated," said Opal Ruth. Sydney nodded like she was receiving sacred law. Done. The funniest part, though, came at the very end, when the final raffle basket was drawn, and the winner turned out to be the Red Tie Council candidate, who had annoyed half the building by existing in the egg lane. He won the church ladies' comfort basket containing slippers, tea, butterscotch, puzzle books, hand lotion, and one crocheted lap blanket in lavender yarn. The room held its breath, then burst laughing when he lifted it over his head like a political trophy. "Well," said Martha Lou into the microphone one last time, "if nothing else, this event has improved somebody." That line became the headline of the local paper on Monday. The article ran beneath a photograph of Martha Lou holding the microphone, Loretta beside the coffee station, Harold pointing sternly at the turkey, Opal Ruth seated calmly by the pie table, and 3 women in red boots laughing so hard they had to lean on one another. The headline read, "Senior Volunteers Rescue Civic Hall from Pie, Politics, and Inflation Without Oversight." It was not wrong. And what remained afterward Beyond the laughter and the newspaper clipping and the now famous phrase about not raffling mystery was the thing older adults already knew. They are too often described in broad, soft words that sound kind but fail to capture the truth. Wise, strong, inspiring, sweet, fine, but the real word is useful. Older adults know where chairs should go, how to move a line when a sign is lying, how to stop a room from turning foolish, how to protect a pie from architecture, and why no one, under any circumstances, should block deviled eggs with democracy. They know what matters first. Later that evening, when the dishes were rinsed, the shoes were off, and the house had gone quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and one cricket on the porch, Martha Lou stood at her bathroom sink and washed her face in the same calm pattern she had trusted for years. Cleanser, lukewarm water, soft towel, moisturizer, no drama. As she smoothed the cream across her skin, she thought how much good skincare and good public order had in common. Neither improves when handled with panic. Neither wants to be bullied. Both work better with patience, routine, and respect for what actually helps. So you cleanse gently, you protect the barrier, you keep the coffee by the cups, the eggs away from campaign hands, the raffle lists in one place, and the inflatable turkey under supervision. And when life turns one quiet recipe swap into a civic dance hall, a pie crisis, a campaign detour, and a full public lesson in why older women should always be consulted first, you straighten your cardigan, take the microphone, and get on with the useful part.